The moment may soon arrive where President Trump has to face down Robert Mueller. Oh, this is going to be very interesting. Now, according to Business Insider, special counsel Robert Mueller's team is now in talks with President Trump's legal defense team about possibly interviewing him as part of the investigation into Russia. Now, a person familiar with the matter told the New York Times on Monday that Mueller's team is mainly focused on James Comey's firing, which could be, of course, considered an act of obstruction of justice, and how much Michael Flynn knew about that as well. So that's very interesting. They're looking into that obstruction of justice charge. Now, interestingly enough, if you guys remember, Donald Trump already admitted to obstruction of justice. Remember, the White House had initially said that right after the firing of James Comey, that he was dismissed because of the way he handled the investigation into Hillary Clinton, right? So I love this, right? So first Trump comes out and says, or the Trump White House is like, no, you don't understand. We think that he dropped the ball when it came to the investigation into Hillary Clinton's emails, into her server. We were actually trying to, so we got rid of Comey because we couldn't trust him, right? One, we actually wanted to, and this was one of their first excuses here. We're going to do it to protect Hillary Clinton. Of course, nobody believes that. Ridiculous, right? Then they're like, actually, we weren't tough enough on Hillary Clinton. Now we need to do more investigations. But James Comey, he dropped it. He dropped the ball. So, and then, of course, Donald Trump on NBC in an interview said, no, actually, this Russia thing had been a factor in this decision. Well, that Russia thing happened to have been an investigation led by James Comey into possible Russian collusion. Now, he also reportedly told two top Russian government officials during a meeting one day after firing Comey that his dismissal had taken, quote, great pressure off him. Now, wait a minute. What if you hadn't done anything, then why would there be pressure? Right? That's weird. Why would you feel pressure if you're completely innocent of doing anything? It's a good question, right? Look, he acts like a guilty person. And even if he's not a guilty person, even if he had done nothing or what he had done was something that wasn't illegal, well, he still acts that way. And so, of course, Mueller is going to be very, very interested in looking into it. Now, the article continues. Trump's legal team, which consists of personal defense lawyers John Dowd and Jay Sekulow and White House lawyer Ty Cobb, have been strategizing about how to approach a possible interview with Mueller since former campaign chairman Paul Manafort was indicted in October. So they see that indictment and they're like, ooh, okay, look, let's get an interview. Let's have Mueller talk to Trump and let's get this all straightened out. See, Mueller's team, well, okay, let me read you this first and then talk about Trump's team. Mueller's team first brought up the possibility of interviewing the president when they met his lawyers late December, according to the Washington Post. However, there has not been a formal request, nor a date set. Now, that's interesting because they could put a request and Trump could turn it down. And then they could do a subpoena, which Trump cannot turn down. Now, Trump's legal team, look, I don't know if they believe Donald Trump did nothing or not, but so far they have advocated for full cooperation with the Mueller investigation, and that's fine. And actually, they keep telling him, don't worry, Donald, just cooperate with Mueller. Don't fire him. He's not going to find anything anyway in this investigation. This will be over very, very soon. And they kept promising that. First, they promised that by Thanksgiving, and then they promised it around Christmas. So that still didn't happen, and it looks like the Mueller investigation is going to be going at least into this year. But then again, if they talk to Donald Trump, that could be an indication that it actually is starting to wrap up. We'll see, right? But the point of bringing that up is the reason that these lawyers are saying that is so, again, Trump does not fire Mueller and actually do obstruction of justice. Because if he fires Mueller, well, that's it. You fire the guy that's investigating you and your campaign after firing Comey, well, then it just gets far, far worse. And look, forget collusion, by the way. obstruction of justice and money laundering, if they find evidence of it, those are the things that could take down Donald Trump. So his lawyers are very, very careful in not letting Trump do that or apparently talk too much. Now, Trump's team is reportedly considering several options in response to the possibility of having an interview with Mueller. That includes having the president submit written responses to questions, which is actually a very safe option, and submitting a sworn affidavit declaring his innocence and saying that he did not collude with Russia. They are also looking into the possibility of avoiding an interview altogether. So they do not want to do a face-to-face, right? If anything, they'll want to do the written responses, like, okay, ask these questions ahead of time so then we can go and we can very, very carefully craft our own answers. In fact, if Trump does a if Trump does a sit down for a face-to-face, his team is willing to agree that only with certain parameters in place to limit the scope of questioning. Now, if you are part of Trump's defense, for one, I'm sorry. For two, yes, it would make sense to limit his ability to speak off the cuff, and that's what written questions would actually do. Now, why would you want to do that? Well, because Donald Trump's an idiot, and he says things that would greatly incriminate him. And we know that because he has already done that. That NBC interview where he talked about Russia being the reason that he fired James Comey, that's a great example, right? So his lawyers are like, we would like to avoid that, if at all possible, which is smart, by doing a written questions, right? Again, so they can be carefully edited, drafted, analyzed to make sure that he doesn't admit something incredibly stupid. In fact, Donald Trump's probably not going to write it at all. He's not going to answer those questions. No, the legal team is probably going to draft it himself and say, here you go. Yes, these are Trump's answers. We made sure of it. Okay. But if you have a face-to-face interview, watch out. Not going to be good. I have a quote here from Jens David Olin, who's the vice dean at Cornell Law School, who is an expert in criminal law, who weighed in on this. And he's like, you know, a face-to-face interview would be a terrible idea. Why? He says, quote, his word salad approach to interviews could get him in real trouble in a Mueller interview if he says something that turns out to be a deliberate lie. That is not a question of if. That is a question of when. Because Donald Trump, I don't know if you know this, but he is a pathological liar. He lies about everything. He lies about things that he shouldn't have to lie about. I have the biggest crowd sizes in my inauguration ever. And then he gets Sean Spicer to go out there and lie about it, right? And repeat that in what was the most ridiculous press appearance I believe I may have ever seen. And I don't know, there are so many to choose from. So he goes out and he lies about things that normal people wouldn't lie about because there would be no payoff, no reason. But since he is a pathological liar, of course he's going to lie when it suits his own interest. And so, yes, this expert in criminal law says, don't do it. Do not do a face-to-face interview because it's going to turn out disastrously. He added, if I were one of his lawyers, I would insist on a written interview and refuse the in-person interview at all costs. But now, here's where it gets interesting because now there's a political angle to it, right? So if you're one of the Trump people or even progressives who believe that Mueller has nothing, that this investigation is a waste of time, then this interview could be seen politically as a positive. In fact, Olin says Trump's attorneys may feel that an interview will create positive press or be appreciated by his supporters. The negative repercussions of appearing to refuse to cooperate, on the other hand, are too damaging. So that's interesting. So Trump, if he believes that he did nothing wrong, like his lawyers seem to be projecting, then, okay, do the interview. But wait, his lawyers are like, let's not do the interview. Let's do something that's at least not face-to-face, if at all. Well, that doesn't really strike me as somebody who's confident. This is not bode well for their confidence in his not only interviewing skills, but whether or not he actually did anything wrong. So now that's a super important point. Now I think there's another point along those lines that I want to mention here. And this is what Olin said about a Trump interview. He said, quote, "It's also possible that Trump may overrule his lawyer's advice because he feels he has nothing to hide, which is a dangerous belief for someone in his position. I don't think he fully appreciates the legal jeopardy he faces." And that is 100% true. He does not realize the legal jeopardy. He does not fully appreciate the kind of trouble that he could be in because he's an idiot and doesn't actually know anything. He doesn't pay attention. He thinks this is about talking to Vladimir Putin. No. This is more than about just talking. He doesn't understand the law. He's more than... Look, is he willing to flout the law? I think he is, because I don't think he understands. This is a person that's never had any sort of consequences for his actions. He went on, for example, let me use the Access Hollywood tape. And here he brags about basically grabbing women by the genitals. I grab them by the pussy. That they let me do it. I do it without permission. And what happened? He became president after that. Consequences. He has never experienced any negative consequences. So he doesn't understand. So not only is he an idiot, he doesn't read, he doesn't really know anything. And let me add in that he also gets cheerleaded by his side because he's surrounded by sycophants who can't say anything negative about him or about his situation. And he's had no consequences. So, of course, that would be the most Trump thing that could happen. He strolls into an interview with Robert Mueller and is like, "Don't worry, guys. I got this. I got the best brain. I'm a very stable genius." This guy thinks that he can outwit Mueller. In reality, Mueller is playing chess. Donald Trump is playing Go Fish. So I can't wait to see what happens here. If he agrees for an in-person interview, oh, please do it. Please do it. And hey, look, if you guys believe that he's innocent, as I'm sure some of you do, then there is no downside to agreeing to this in-person interview, while there are plenty of upsides for you. So there you go. Hey, everybody, thanks for watching this video. If you want to see more like this, please hit the subscribe button below. And if you want to support truly independent progressive media, please consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/TYTNation.